you can revisit after this, yeah. Normally, if we do Google Meet, the recording will be on Google Drive. The link I will provide on Spectrum after this. Now, beginning with our week 1 lecture. Entire screen, select screen windows. Entire screen. Announce. Okay, can everybody see? Okay, answer in the group WhatsApp boleh? Okay, I'm waiting for one person. Can you see? Now the page is Introduction to Land Acquisition in Malaysia. Slide. Somebody answer on WhatsApp? Can. Okay, love. Thank you. Lovely love. They're very responsive. Okay, good. So, this set of slides is going to be 33 altogether, 33 slides. Okay. Introduction saja, just an overall picture on what is land acquisition. I remember somebody during second year ke first year asked about land acquisition. So I said third year lah, you will learn about land acquisition. So now you are going to learn about land acquisition in Malaysia. Now, before this, the word acquisition kan, land acquisition to the what you call if we translate into Malay, it's pengambilan tanah. But before this, land acquisition was known as compulsory acquisition. Pengambilan paksa no. Land compulsory acquisition. Pengambilan wajib lah, maknanya dia boleh ambil. Dia boleh paksa. Compulsory means they can compel the landowner untuk mengambil. Dan land acquisition, the word compulsory acquisition tu has been dropped to reduce the negative connotation. But it still means that the landowners must agree to the acquisition. So it is a power, given to the government to compulsorily acquire, mengambil secara paksa the land, any property, any tanah, any land yang dipunyai oleh private owners, in Malaysia. So introduction. So overview of the course, whereby everybody, I have uploaded the course information, course information. Actually, we have to go through that as well. So why not? Wait, let me just open acquisition. Mana. Action notes. 3001, the principles. Course information online, this one. So we are going to cover, in this lecture, all the relevant topics lah. What you are going to learn week by week, or what you're going to do week by week. But in my weeks 13 and 14, you don't have any lectures, but we have our moot court. Moot court. Moot court means kita buat satu role play. Role play, real court, whereby there will be two sides, plaintiff and respondent, and also the judge will try to make it work online. Course information, whereby I will show you the weekly topics and the assessment, the methods and dates. I will show you. So the methods and dates of assessment will be shown here on the course information for current semester lah, for 3001. Now the topic the full title of 3001 is land acquisition and compensation. So land acquisition is the first part, the law part, whereby you acquire the land, the processes, the procedures, the legal requirements. So that is under the acquisition part. Compensation is what Dr. Anwar is going to teach you. The law, the calculation part, the valuation part. Valuation of what? Is it just the valuation of the acquired land? Bukan, no. Nanti you will learn later on what kind of items can be included in the compensation. If the land is compulsorily acquired, atau the land is being acquired compulsorily by the government. Then Dr. Anwar's book, unfortunately, is not available as an e-book. The book is available at the library, at the Alam Bina library, and I think also at the main library. But I think Dr. Anwar himself has got copies of this book. For instance, if Pak Iqmal datang campus, want to borrow this book, can nanti minta dengan Dr. Anwar. But all things, all materials that are in soft copy form, I will upload online. Don't worry about it. Then, okay, what else? The two lecturers, myself and also Dr. Anwar. Okay, our email addresses. The lecture, unfortunately, 9 o'clock Monday. Aduh, dalam Monday, 9 o'clock lagi kan. 9 o'clock Monday, 9 to 11 our lecture. Our tutorial Wednesday afternoon 4 to 6. So we got the graveyard shift for the lecture and also for the tutorial. Sangat petang, sangat pagi. Anyway, we will survive. Don't worry about it. Then, okay, your continuous assessment. So the apportionment is 60-40. 60% for continuous assessment, which is 2 tests. Okay, we have 2 online tests. We have also assignment 40%. Okay, assignment is divided into 2 lah, the marking scheme. One is the report itself, the validation report. The second one is the presentation, sorry, the moot court. Last time, moot court ada certain percentage, I think 30-10. 30 for the report, 10 for the moot court. Okay. And then you will have your online open book examination. Oh, no date yet. Ini lama punya ni. I should have cancelled this. Tak ada. No date yet. Tak ada. Okay, so online open book exam, 40%. Again, like I said, we haven't decided whether to use reflection notes or not. If we decide to use, okay, it's no longer going to be 20% reflection notes because we feel that you guys did too well for your reflection notes. Maybe 10% only lah this time. So 30 exam, 10. If we do decide to do the reflection notes, if not, everything will be based on your online open book examination. Boleh buka buku, but then who will have time in 2 hours to really read your notes again more. Okay, anyway, we go week by week. Okay, so week one, according to the week, so week 1 is the introduction, okay, the rationale, legal authorities in relation to land acquisition. Okay, now the law ataupun the act is known as Land Acquisition Act 1960, Akta Pengambilan Tanah 1960. Okay, you look at the year 1960, what does that tell you? How many years after our independence? 3 years, right? So right after our independence too, the government right away or straight away, okay, thought about a law that allows for compulsory land acquisition. Maknanya dia how to acquire, how to get the land away from its registered owner. Now remember in our in our second year 2001, BIE3001, when we said register is everything, betul? Register is everything, meaning if a person's name is on the title as the registered proprietor of the land, he has all the rights that is given under National Land Code over the land. Hak untuk memberi pajakan, hak to, the rights to give lease, right to subdivide, right to amalgamate, all the rights. So the rights are being protected under the Federal Constitution. So how do you take away a right that is being protected under the Federal Constitution? It must be under a law, a lawful provision, and that allows the government to take away the land. So the lawful provision is given under Land Acquisition Act 1960. So inilah kita nak belajar tu. This is the act that is going to be the main reference for this course. Okay. Second week, Land Acquisition Act. Again, we only use one act here, Land Acquisition Act, application until marking out. So the first one, week 1, introduction. Week 2, application. Apply for what? Apply to acquire the land. Marking out. What is marking out? You will learn in week 2. Marking out, kita tanda atas tanah tu, tanda penandaan. Application until marking out. Week 3, proceedings until service of award. Proceedings meaning ada siasatan. Proceedings means satu proceeding lah in the end, PROCEEDING. Inquiry proceeding. Proceeding siasatan. Tu dia proceeding dia. So inquiry proceeding or proceeding siasatan until the service of award, sampailah pemberian pampasan award. Then, okay, what did I do just now? Undo. Then, week 4, week 3, we have the first test here. Online test kan? Said just now, online test, how much? 20%? No, 10% only. 10%, week 3. Now, in mind, okay, I do not, normally for your seniors, what we do is we have the test in class, okay? So not very sure whether this time we should do during our online tutorial or I give you a take-home test. I think take-home test is better, fairer for you. But having said that, take-home test, so normally people can share the sharing answer is fine. Sharing the soft copy is not fine. You know what I mean? If you share the main points, tak apa. Tapi the problem is some people can share the soft copy, which is not what I want. Because I want you to think, kan? Fikir. We'll think about it. So in week 3, test 1. Week 4, taking possession of land. Taking possession of land, mengambil hak tu. Ambil milik. Ambil milik pada tanah. Okay. And withdrawal of acquisition. Can the withdrawal be cancelled? Yes. Through what? Through withdrawal. Boleh di-cancel melalui penarikan pengambilan. Week 5, reference to court. Ini interesting. This is when we teach you how if the land, if the proprietor or if the interested parties are not satisfied with the amount of compensation, they can refer the dissatisfaction or refer the case to court dengan cara apa? How? What are the requirements for them to be able to make the reference to court? Cara dia macam mana? What are the parameters, apa syarat dia, time parameters, borang macam mana, and things like who can make the reference to court. So all these things you will learn in week 5 together with some cases, court cases yang telah menjadi case law. Some court cases that have become the case law to guide reference to court. Then again, my final week with you, we will learn first schedule, jadual 1, jadual pertama, first schedule. What is in the first schedule? The first schedule contains principles relating to determination of compensation, which is the market value. So dalam jadual pertama, okay, in first schedule, there are certain things that will be outlined ataupun laid out for the people to know, okay, what kind of items they can claim as compensation if their land is being acquired by the government. So it's not just the market value of the acquired land, but also other items. Dia ada A, B, C, D, nanti kita tengok apa lagi other items besides the market value of the acquired land. Then with Dr. Anwar, okay, then he will take over the first schedule when I did the introduction to principles relating, the market value punya definition and what constitutes the market value that can be claimed under first schedule. After that, Dr. Anwar will take over, okay. Week 7, matters to be considered in determining compensation. Week 8, test 2 tadi, test 2, week 6, lupa nak mention. Again, online, And then week 7, when Dr. Anwar first comes in, he will distribute your assignment question. With the week 7 is 23rd of November. By that time, we hope that the COVID cases are going down, will go down. We hope that we'll be able to move around without much, tak takut lagi, much anxiety from the jangkitan, from being infected by COVID. If that's the case, sekiranya if by November 23rd or if by the first week of November, COVID cases have come down, then maybe, of course, this is a group assignment, and then maybe you will be more free to move around, to go to site for inspection, to go to the land office, for instance, to go to all other government agencies, for instance, as per your normal valuation cases, hopefully by that time, tanpa takut. Then, if COVID started, there's a third, fourth wave of COVID, we will think about the situation and maybe, we will give you secondary data, meaning we will give you the site, we will give you the data, you do the valuation. Itulah yang paling safe for everybody involved, rather than let you go out do and get at risk being infected. We don't want that. Okay, tengoklah macam mana. I think 1 month from now should be okay lah, because yesterday was 371 cases kan, day before tu. I'm not very sure. Anyway, hopefully the COVID situation will improve soon. Okay, week 8, okay, again, all these weeks from week 6 until week 13, 13, semua tu pasal it's about calculating the compensation. Not calculating, valuing. Calculating, valuing, no, not valuing. Calculating the amount of compensation, which includes valuing the acquired land. Let me be very clear. Kita calculate the compensation termasuklah nilai tanah yang diambil. Okay. Then week 12, evidence and procedure. Ini best. This is when we get ready for our moot court. So Dr. Anwar will give a briefing on evidence and procedure in land reference cases, and then after that week 13, week 14 is when we do the moot court yang presentation ni lah. Okay. So hopefully that's you guys understand that you guys have 2 tests, 1 assignment and your final exam. But the final exam we haven't decided whether to allow for some reflection notes for you guys to top up. Depends lah. I think I would rather wait tengok you punya results for test 1, test 2. If it's fine, then we proceed with no reflection notes. If test 1, test 2 you guys don't do so well, maybe we have to consider giving you reflection notes for your final exam, part of your final exam. Okay, clear? Somebody please answer me on WhatsApp. Clear or not? Somebody say clear, then we proceed. Good. Okay, Faik says very clear. Okay, no, good. So although it's not very clear, it's clear, it's good enough. Now we go to our next one, lecture 1. Okay, sekejap nak break. So this week we are going to touch on 2 things: introduction to land acquisition in Malaysia. The second one is overview of the Land Acquisition Act 1960. Okay, focusing on the latest amendments. Overview tu maknanya just a broad perspective, just a broad introduction on what is Land Acquisition Act 1960. By the way, I have also uploaded on your on your spectrum. Where's your spectrum? On your spectrum. We'll be back soon after that. Spectrum has been doing this since weekend. Wait, spectrum. Cannot spectrum. Spectrum B3. Salam. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Here. Again. Yeah, cannot go in. I think crash lah. So many people because we have classes starting from today. I think could be lah. Spectrum has crashed. Anyway, never mind that. What did I want to show you? I wanted to show you that on Spectrum, okay, if you can imagine, okay, if you go up, there's a the first section is announcements. Then week 1, week 2, okay, announcements. Under announcements, what I provided there, your course performer, your course information, okay, and then I provided the ACTA itself, the Land Acquisition Act 1960, the latest amendment 2018 there, from the AGC office, Attorney General Chamber, company office. I have uploaded the link to the Land Acquisition Act. So everybody please, maybe some of you, Doctor, I got problem with connection. Okay, Mel, after this, let me just, Mel, watch the recorded lecture after this. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. Okay, some people during the lecture, they may encounter problems, putus-putus, so in and out. Okay, so what you do is relax, don't stress. After this, come back to the lecture, the recorded lecture, because I understand that some of you may come from areas that have no good connectivity. So never mind that, it's okay, because things will work out. Don't worry. Watch the recorded lecture. What was I? Okay, now AGC, the Land Acquisition Act. Some seniors, they like to have the physical copy in their hand when they learn, when they study law. Okay? These seniors are normally the ones who are so serious about their TPC, their registration later on. Because when they are learning law, at the same time they mark the important provisions. So I think the akta itself is not that expensive. It's just I think belah-belah ringgit saja, below 20 ringgit if I'm not mistaken. Because it's very thin. Land Acquisition Act sangat nipis. But another choice is for you to print out. And yet another choice is for you to download and then you can mark, make marks, make your own notations on the PDF copy of the akta of the act. So it's up to you. There's so many ways for you to refer nowadays. One, to buy the act itself. Two, to print out the akta. Three, to download the PDF and then you do your notations on the PDF copy. So there are so many options for you. No excuse anymore for you to not have the akta besides you. That is so nipis, I tell you. I think about 60 provisions only, 60 sections only. Sangat nipis. From what we as compared to National Land Code, which is 400 something sections kan. So this is quite thin. And I think Dr. Anwar Star, he goes one by one item on the schedule 1, schedule pertama, first schedule. Okay? So it's worth it for you to buy or print. Soft copy tu susah sikit. I don't like soft copies. I like to have physical copy at hand. Okay. Now we go back. Okay. To screen. Course outcome. This is inside your course performa. What we expect you guys to be able to do at the end of the course. The first one, you should be able to explain the specific legal provisions in relation to land acquisition and compensation. Section apa dalam Land Acquisition Act menyatakan apa? Jadual apa dalam Land Acquisition Act menyatakan apa? So those are the specific legal provisions, the specific sections, the specific schedule, items in the schedule that says what regarding land acquisition and compensation. Then the second one is relate the importance of the Land Acquisition Act 1960 to the valuation practice. So this is when the Act marries the valuation. Ada dua, two in one. Relate the importance. Because in order for you to conduct the valuation for any land acquisition cases later on, you have to refer back to whatever you learn in the law punya part, which is section 4 notice. What is the importance of that? Section 8 notice. What is the importance of that? Do you value your subject property based on section 4 notice date or section 8 notice date, for instance? So those two have a connection, the law part and the valuation part. What can you include, what can you consider in the valuation, for instance, of the acquired land? What if during the acquisition, the land, what if after, the land acquisition, the land becomes reduced in value? Can I claim that? For instance, a rectangular piece of land, being acquired, the middle part is being acquired, causing the two sections to be separated, which cause maybe irregular shapes, for instance, after the pengambilan, or irregular shape is one thing. What else? Not being economic to be used after the acquisition, for instance. That's another example of the land after the acquisition being reduced in value. So can I claim the difference? So those kind of things, yeah. Then number 3, demonstrate the understanding and reproduce appropriate valuation methods in determining the adequate compensation of different types of properties. So if it says here demonstrate understanding, you mesti menunjukkan you punya kefahaman, and you boleh membuat ataupun you boleh menunjukkan, you can show valuation methods yang betul dalam menilai pampasan mencukupi dalam determining the adequate compensation for different types of property. So you have learned so far the 3 approaches of valuation: the comparison, the market approach, the income approach. The other one is apa lagi, cost kan, approach, okay, the market approach, the approach lah, comparison method kan. So you have the income approach, you have the profits and also the investment and the income, and sorry, profit and investment. For the last one, for the cost tu is the cost method lah kan. So which of the three approaches, okay, is appropriate to be used in valuing lands under land acquisition punya purpose? Do we use investment method? Does the court recognize income approach? Boleh ke saya guna profits method? Can I use the investment method? Nanti you will learn that we will focus more on the market approach, iaitu the comparison approach. Selalunya kita value, kita akan guna com method. Tapi ada teknik dia dan before after dan sebagainya. Now, so these are your classes. Okay, Monday, the tutorial Wednesday. Spectrum, we use Spectrum to upload the lecture notes and also other extra materials. For instance, I have created a folder. Namanya apa? All articles related to land acquisition, if I'm not mistaken. So a folder, special folder dalam tu ada all the articles related daripada Institut Tanah Negara, from Dr. Ismail Omar, bukan Dr. Professor Ismail Omar regarding land acquisition, Dr. Anwar punya paper pun I masuk kat situ, Professor siapa lagi? NST articles and Newsweek Times, all the relevant articles related to land acquisition. Then any announcements we also put up on Spectrum. Submission of exam will be done through Spectrum. Remember last time kita punya kecoh tu kan? Submission of exam, papers, exam questions, your test, your assignments to Spectrum. Group WhatsApp we use for announcements, communication, and sometimes, okay, when things are quite hectic for us, maybe for lecturers, we have to go for our banking. We are now doing our curriculum review. So when we are away from our PC or from our laptop, we have to do tutorials using WhatsApp. Okay, continuous assessment. This one, I've mentioned before, the dates, moot court, 11, 13, 18, 20, January 2021. Okay. Now, we go to the lecture proper. Okay. Why do I show you this photo, this picture? I just want you to appreciate, okay, in KL itself kan. On the right hand side we have the city center, we have the KLCC, we have the KLCC means the Twin Towers and all the related the parcels near the KLCC tu. How many acres? 50 acres altogether, if I'm not mistaken. Semua sekali tu. Next to it is Kampung Baru. You see the vast difference between the KLCC, the Twin Towers and Kampung Baru. See the vast difference. Kampung Baru is what we say, or is what we describe as ripe for redevelopment. Ripe maknanya dah masak, dah ranum for redevelopment. Because you can see the tall buildings to coming, encroaching kan, coming. What it tells you, this picture is on the right hand side, the city center to the top part of the picture or of the photo. Okay. Can you imagine the plot ratio there? Plot ratio, the density there compared to Kampung Baru. Do you think that the Kampung Baru punya plot ratio is the same as the one shown in the city center side? Yes kan? Betul. But what is stopping that? What is preventing the same plot ratio to be adopted in Kampung Baru? Redevelopment, ada salah kan? You know this the Kampung Baru punya Kampung Baru issue, the redevelopment of Kampung Baru has been going on for not 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It has been going on for for decades. This one, Kampung Baru. I remember even from the 80s, 90s, we're talking about how to redevelop Kampung Baru. People giving ideas on how to bring development or how to redevelop the Kampung Baru area. The main problem there is Kampung Baru comprises small individual parcels held by private landowners, private proprietors. So maknanya if small units, if government wants to use, they have to acquire all the small parcels. One parcel of land in Kampung Baru may have tens of owners. So if say Kampung Baru has 500 titles, one title has 10 owners. Can you imagine how many owners that the government has to deal with? Kan? The process of land acquisition there will be very complicated because we have to deal with all the landowners. And second is the quantum of valuation. We know small landowners per square meter or per square foot, the value is higher than the bigger land kan, per square meter or per square foot, because which is caused by quantum, size quantum kan. We learn that in our first year valuation. Smaller lands per square meter is higher than bigger land punya per square meter value. So all these things, the simplest solution is what we are learning, land acquisition, compulsory land acquisition. The law allows the government to do that, to compulsorily purchase, acquire lah, beli, ambil semua tanah-tanah ni and redevelop. In theory, that is allowed. Okay? In theory, kerajaan boleh, the government can use the Land Acquisition Act to acquire all the lands in Kampung Baru and redevelop the Kampung Baru to match the development on the right hand side tu, the city centre. Match the plot ratio, match the density, match the zoning, match everything lah. Highest and best use lah basically can be achieved. Okay. But itulah, so many problems kan, and some people have done their thesis on this, the Kampung Baru punya acquisition. Not only at undergraduate level but also at postgraduate level. Dr. Zaya, for instance, did her thesis on Penchala, but same problem Sungai Penchala dan Kampung Baru tu, because of the fact that the land parcels are owned by so many owners, and then Malay Reserve and all these things. Okay, Kampung Baru Malay Reserve, you see there, okay, just beside the hospital Chowkit dan sebagainya, sangat right for development. This case number 2, why we are teaching you land acquisition. Okay, the first one is not land Kampung Baru. So now, if the land acquisition, the redevelopment of Kampung Baru goes ahead, okay, then the landowners of Kampung Baru tu, they must appoint valuers, private valuers to value their land, to value the land, to get the amount of adequate compensation to be used untuk lawan government punya valuers. Who is government's valuers? JPPH valuers lah. So there's going to be 2 valuation reports. One from the government, okay? The JPPH officers will go there and conduct valuation on the acquired land, and then the landowners or the interested parties, kita bagi, not just the owners, interested parties on the land will employ private valuers to come up with another valuation report to lawan, to compare against the value, the compensation given by JPPH valuers. So if it goes ahead, that means business for private valuers. Second one, the second case, ECRL, total length 640 kilometers, okay, traverses through 5 states, Selangor, Negeri Sembilan, Pahang, Terengganu, Kelantan. Implications to land acquisition due to above situations. Yes, a lot of cases, betul. But can you see the problems because land is under state matter, kan? So for each state, maknanya ada different sets of problems or issues in their own land acquisition. Okay, so April 2019, they were in the process of gazetting Section 4 notice. This starts the ball rolling for the landowners, Section 4 notice. Section 4 notice, you will learn later on, is the first notice. It is a notice of intention. Intention, dia beritahu the landowner tanah ini, the land is likely to be acquired. Mungkin, likely to be acquired, just to give notice to the interested parties that their land may be acquired. So they must get ready lah. If the likelihood is confirmed, then by Section 8 notice, then things will have to follow the land acquisition procedure, which is section 9, 10, 11, section 10, 11 punya acquisition, inquiry proceedings, for instance. You can see there a lot of land acquisition implications. This will give rise to the need for private valuers to value on behalf of the landowners, on behalf of the interested parties, along the alignment of the PCRL across 5 states. How many parcels of land is there, kan? How many parcels of land are going to be affected? Thousands of parcels of land. If one parcel of land has only one proprietor, it's fine. So means if 5,000 lots, 5,000 proprietors. But if a lot has more than one, I can see there the implications. How many people are going to be affected by the land acquisition? Now, what is actually land acquisition? The process of land acquisition, it says there, Ismail Omar. Now, let me just tell you now. In Malaysia, who are the experts in land acquisition? The first one, Professor Ismail Omar, who is now at UTHM, University Tun Hussein on Malaysia. Okay, Ismail Omar. Professor Ismail Omar and our Dr. Anwar Alias classmates or 1 year senior, I don't know, but they went to the same university before, right? Professor Ismail Omar, Associate Professor Anwar Alias, okay, both same batch, okay, both are experts in land acquisition, okay, Ismail Omar, Anwar Alias. Then we have our Tuan Haji Baharudin Muhammad Yusof. Tuan Haji Baharudin Muhammad Yusof is a retiree lah. Dia dah retire. But he was the OTAI. He was the topmost expert of land matters lah. Not just land acquisition. Land matters in Malaysia, he used to work with Instone. In Malaysia, we have this Institute Tanah Negara, the National Land Institute, located in Tanjung Malim. Okay. So Instone is like our INSPAN. INSPAN is Institute Penilaian Negara. So INSPAN is for valuers. Instone is for land administrators. It's for the land office punya officers tu, the land administrators, the district officers at the land office. All these people go to Instone for their training. Encik ataupun Tuan Haji Baharudin is their sifu. Baharudin Muhammad Yusof used to be their sifu lah, another retire. But he is the walking dictionary. He knows all the sections. He knows all the court cases. So if you Google any material on land acquisition, and if you see the name of the author is Baharudin Muhammad Yusof, you can trust the content. Boleh percaya contennya. Because Haji Baharudin, he likes to write. He writes for Instone Journal. He writes for a blog. Juga dia buat blog. So anything that has his name, you can trust the content. Yang lain tak payah percaya. Yang lain semua tulis berdasarkan saya pendapat, saya rasa in my opinion. But for Haji Baharudin, he writes from his experience. Okay. So these 3 people, Ismail Omar, Baharudin and our Dr. Anwar. Professor Ismail says that the process of land acquisition provides a legal procedure for the public sector in acquiring any land for development projects that benefits the country. So provides legal procedure, memberikan satu prosedur perundangan yang membolehkan sektor kerajaan, public sector, to acquire, untuk mengambil mana-mana tanah untuk projek pembangunan yang menguntungkan negara, memberi keuntungan kepada negara. APT, the Land Acquisition Act, membolehkan pengambilan tanah oleh pihak berkuasa negeri untuk tujuan pembangunan dengan syarat dibayar. Ni tak ada kan? Here, the first one doesn't mention anything about compensation. But Baharudin, he adds there, the Land Acquisition Act, it allows the land acquisition by the state government, by the state authority for the purpose of development with condition that adequate compensation ataupun compensation is paid in terms of adequate compensation to the interested parties. Haji Baharudin is smart. He doesn't say kepada tuan tanah, because Haji Baharudin realised that compensation is paid to all interested parties, and you will learn siapakah orang berkepentingan itu. So let me just remind you again here. when you are valuing the adequate composition, you are valuing the tanah, you are valuing the items under schedule, under the first schedule. Okay, it's not just for the landowner but also for interested parties, kepada orang berkepentingan. Interested parties, interest apa yang dikatakan? Interest in the title. Okay, bukan orang yang interested yang nak ambil tahu. Interest tu, if we translate into Malay, there's two translations, right? Interested. Saya interested in you. Saya minat dengan awak, bukan? We are now talking about saya berkepentingan dalam tanah tu. I am interested in the land. Berkepentingan dalam tanah tu. In what way? Saya mungkin seorang tenant, seorang lessee, for instance. I have a lease. I'm the lessee. My name is on the list on the land. So saya seorang lessee. Saya seorang pemegang pajakan. So sebagai pemegang pajakan, saya ada kepentingan atas tanah tu. So here again, for those who directly translate, no, stop. In law, we have a thing called kepentingan, interest. Berkepentingan, interested, there means you have an interest in terms of ownership, in terms of right, in terms of responsibility dalam tanah tu. Itu maksudnya interest di situ. The third one, land acquisition in Malaysia operates under the concept of eminent domain. Ini first time dengar kan, eminent domain. Now, eminent domain is a very important concept in land acquisition. Okay, after this, in your tutorial, one of the questions, it asks, susah nak sebut. It asks you to explain the concept of eminent domain, which bestows on the state power to acquire private property even without the owner's consent. The concept of eminent domain tu maknanya kuasa di atas kerajaan. Eminent domain, kuasa mutlak atas kerajaan. Which bestows on the state power dia baca comma, pause. Which bestows on the state power to acquire private property even without the owner's consent. Dia memberikan kepada, state here means bukan negeri. State here means kerajaan. Dia memberikan kepada kerajaan kuasa untuk mengambil harta tanah private, harta tanah private apa? Oh my god. Harta tanah bukan awam. Harta tanah pribadi. Pribadi.
Swasta.
Private sector. Sektor awam. Sektor. Abdi give me a clue dalam tutorial, dalam group. Private sector. Sektor awam. Swasta. Swasta. To acquire tanah swasta. Harta tanah swasta. Betul lah tu. To acquire harta tanah swasta. Even without the owner's consent. Walaupun the owner, tuan itu tidak memberi dia punya kebenaran. Okay, swasta betul persendirian. Acquire harta tanah persendirian. Syira, thank you so much. Okay. So in Malaysia, this power is vested with the federal and state governments. Jadi power dia kata the state. State sana kerajaan. So kerajaan mana? Kerajaan persekutuan, kerajaan negeri. And can kerajaan persekutuan, kerajaan negeri, does that exclude kerajaan tempatan? Kan tak ada kan kerajaan tempatan. Why? Because land is under what? State power kan? State government, state authority. So federal is for tanah dia lah. Tanah federal, ada sedikit tanah. Contohnya tanah di Persekutuan Labuan, tanah dalam KL. State government tu kerajaan negeri yang biasa-biasa. Negeri Perlis, Kelantan, Pahang, Johor dan sebagainya. That's why federal is also included, because the federal government has power over land in Putrajaya and Labuan. And Kuala Lumpur juga. And can be exercised to acquire any land for any bona fide public purpose with just compensation paid to the landowner. Yang boleh digunakan untuk mengambil mana-mana tanah untuk tujuan kegunaan awam yang bona fide, yang suci hati, yang betul lah, bona fide, yang betul, with just compensation, dengan pampasan yang mencukupi, yang adil lah. Di sini Dr. Anwar dia cakap adil, just compensation, adil. dibayar kepada landowner. Sebenarnya kepada kickback tu Haji Baharudin, this is better. Orang berkepentingan boleh diberi. Rationale. Why does the government create the Land Acquisition Act? Rationale. One, the benefits of the people at large override the benefit of an individual. Kepentingan orang ramai mengatasi kepentingan individu ataupun keuntungan individu. Second one, the government's power to overcome the problems of land supply and a means to total control of land for development. Ini memberikan kuasa kepada kerajaan untuk mengatasi masalah ketiadaan tanah tu, land supply, kekurangan tanah. Contoh tadi kekurangan tanah dekat Kampung Baru tu lah, like we said before, it's right for redevelopment kan, dalam KL itself dah kurang tanah untuk dibina. Then, land acquisition provides a solution to the problems with landowners who are reluctant to surrender their land for development. Contoh, good example again, Kampung Baru. The output of land acquisition is land that is free from encumbrances. Ini dia. If the government buys the land, bukan cara acquisition, buys through a private treaty, what happens is the government will receive the land together with the conditions, the restrictions, caveats, leases, easements. Government doesn't want that. The government wants when they take over a land, the land is clean. When I say the land is clean, I mean the title is clean. It's free from bebanan-bebanan, encumbrances. No conditions, no restrictions, no caveats, no leases, no easements. Why? Then the government can easily develop the land or redevelop the land without having to deal with the conditions, the restrictions, the caveats, the lease and the easements. That is another advantage or rationale for land acquisition. Principles, eminent domain, the first one. The enactment of laws to compel landowners to sell the land to the state or some other body is done as a matter of practical necessity. Diperlukan. So, undang-undang ataupun Land Acquisition Act is a necessity. Under the term of eminent domain, the land may be taken for any bona fide public purpose. So, pertama, eminent domain is the principle. Eminent domain gives the right to the state to take any land for bona fide public purpose because the power ultimately rests with the state, dengan kerajaan. Okay? Eminent domain. The second one, salus populi est suprema lex. Pandai saya sebutkan. Okay, salus populi lah. Salus populi est suprema lex. Lex ni law. Lex Luthor kan. Lex means law. Populi means rakyat. Suprema means apa? Supreme lah. Besar kan. Salus. General. The general good of the whole community is paramount to that of the individual landowner, or the welfare of the people is the paramount law. Okay, salus populi means the general population is the supreme law, is the paramount law. Maknanya apa saja yang berkepentingan kepada orang ramai ialah undang-undang yang digunakan. Salus populi est suprema lex. Maknanya kepihakan itu ada this one. Sekiranya orang ramai, sekiranya public, sekiranya rakyat need something, that is the law that must be obeyed, mesti dipatuhi. Dia dah jadi undang-undang. Means you cannot go against the supreme law, the paramount law. Okay, salus populi est suprema lex. Eminent domain means kuasa mutlak terletak kepada government, kepada kerajaan. Kedua, salus populi est suprema lex. Apa yang general public hendak ialah ada undang-undang mutlak, undang-undang besar dalam negara itu. The third one is public necessity is greater than private. Publica major as from private. Yang mana the needs of the rakyat mengalahkan the needs of the individuals. Maknanya yang besar lebih utama dari yang kecil, yang individu. The three main principles of land acquisition. In your TPC, this one has been has been revealed to us. One of the favorite questions asked by this particular examiner, tak tahu siapa, kalau tak silap Datuk Sidus, I cannot remember. One of the examiners, he likes to ask this concept ni. Ramai gagal bila ditanya eminent domain tak boleh jawab, scholars popular tak boleh jawab. This kind of thing is quite important because this is the principle behind the valuation that we do, not just under land acquisition, but later on when you have learned this. Have you learned your taxation? Not yet, kan? But when you learn your ratings, your taxation pun ada certain principles that you must also remember. Hafal lah, if possible, mesti hafal. Because this become the foundation of your valuation. Kalau you tak faham what is eminent domain, if you don't understand what is salus populi as suprema lex, if you don't understand what is publica major as quam private, you don't understand these concepts, then how can you value on behalf of your clients? Because you tak faham tanah boleh diambil semula secara paksa. Because you tak faham tadi, the Land Acquisition Act tu lebih mengatasi daripada undang-undang National Land Code, for instance, which only menguntungkan seorang landowner. Publica major you tak boleh untuk melawan land acquisition by the government, because the government is going to acquire for public projects ataupun the public use, kan? Public necessity is greater than the private. So these three things must be understood, the principles. Right. So having said about all these powers by the government, the eminent domain dan sebagainya, adakah the property owners mempunyai hak? Yes, I mentioned this before. The property owners in Malaysia, they have their rights, and the rights are guaranteed, are protected. The rights of a property owner in Malaysia are protected under the following legislation. The first one is Federal Constitution, the second one is National Land Code, the third one is the Act yang mengambil tanah tu pun protect dia punya rights. Don't be surprised, betul lah. Because Land Acquisition Act, dia kata tanah hanya boleh, the land only can be acquired if you do these things. So, in a way, the Land Acquisition Act protects the rights of the property owner. Let us go back to the Federal Constitution, Article 13. What is Article 13? I think during your first year, you must have been exposed to Article 13 dalam your legal studies. Federal Constitution. No person may be deprived of private property save in accordance with law. Tiada orang yang boleh diambil, dirampas dia punya harta kecuali atau melainkan menurut undang-undang, menurut peruntukan undang-undang. The second one, no law may provide for the compulsory acquisition or use of property without adequate compensation. Tiada undang-undang boleh memperuntukkan untuk pengambilan secara paksa ataupun penggunaan secara paksa mana-mana harta tanpa pampasan mencukupi, adequate compensation. So the first point under Article 13 is must be accordance with law. The second point is must be done with adequate compensation. So dua. If you want to take down your notes, Article 13, the first point is must be according to law. Number 2 is must be given adequate compensation, pampasan yang mencukupi. The second one is second protection for property owners' right is the Section 340. Mana ini imbas kembali, Section 340 is the heart of National Land Code, which gives the indefeasibility of title. Datang balik dah. Apa nama kes tu? Bukankah Bunsen punya ni? Bukankah after that ada Tan Yi Hang? Same lah. So ini semua berkenaan dengan Section 340. Section 340 gives the owner, the registered owner, indefeasibility of title. Hak milik yang tidak boleh disangkal sekiranya dia punya nama, dia punya title tu dia punya nama telah masukkan dalam title dan telah disahkan dengan cara under the hand and seal of the land administrator. Sekiranya dah ada chalk, dah ada sign dalam title tu dan nama dia dah ada, nama the owner dah ada, then the owner's right is guaranteed under the National Land Code. So in Malaysia, the rights of the property owner are protected under 3 layers or three levels of, not level, three types of law. The first one is the ultimate law, the Federal Constitution. The second one, National Land Act. The third one is the Land Acquisition Act. So maknanya jangan risau, walaupun kerajaan boleh, although the government can acquire your property, your land, okay, compulsorily, but the government must observe the law and must also give adequate compensation to the person. And then it says that the land acquisition must follow all the steps outlined in the national under the Land Acquisition Act. Ikut semua section, ikut aturannya. If the land acquisition is not according to the Land Acquisition Act, for instance, the acquiring body dia miss out satu step, dia miss out, contohnya marking out, dia tak buat penandaan kepada title, kepada harta tanah tu. What happens is the process of acquisition can be challenged. The process, I'm sorry, I'm not talking about the kelulusan pengambilan tanah, but the process pengambilan tu can be challenged dengan alasan not according to the provision, not according to the steps or the procedures as set out under Land Acquisition Act 1960. Mesti ikut semua, must follow all the sections accordingly in Land Acquisition Act. And the sections in Land Acquisition Act from 4, 5, 6 sections, section 4, section 5, 6, 7, 8, all those are apa kita panggil tu, ikut turutan. Must do section 4 before we can go to section 5. Must give out section 4 notice before we can give out section 8 punya notice. Everything must be done accordingly. Power associated with land acquisition, the state government, federal government. Now, this is the power given to the respective government. State government is given by item 2D under the 9th schedule, state list and 9th schedule of Federal Constitution, which authorizes for the acquisition of land by the state authority. For the federal government, Article 83, clauses 1 and 5 of Federal Constitution authorize the federal government, any federal agency or statutory bodies to acquire land for any purpose via the state authority. Maknanya the federal government will not acquire directly, but the federal government will acquire via melalui state authority. So proses pengambilan akan dijalankan oleh state authority, but the application comes from the federal government. It can come from any federal agency or statutory bodies. Federal agency, contoh-contoh, federal agency MARA, RISDA, RISDA, FELDA, FELCRA, itu government agencies, statutory bodies, Indah Water, what else? Air Selangor, what else? Selangor tu negeri lah, okay, federal, batuan. Telekom, lagi. Indah Water, Telekom, TMB, all those are statutory bodies. Okay. Melalui siapa? State authority. Now, Land Acquisition Act, so the short name or the number lah kan, normally we quote either by the long title, which is Land Acquisition Act 1960, ataupun the short title, which is Act 486. So Land Acquisition in Malaysia is governed by the Land Acquisition Act 486. What is it? It's an act relating to the acquisition of land, the assessment of compensation to be made on account of such acquisition and other matters incidental thereto. So, ialah satu akta berkenaan pengambilan tanah, berkenaan penilaian pampasan, okay, yang berkaitan dengan pengambilan tersebut, dan semua hal berkaitan, semua hal berkenaan pengambilan tersebut. Contohnya reference to court tadi, contohnya inquiry tadi. So contohnya all other things incidental yang berkaitan dengan pengambilan tersebut. Applicable to all states in Malaysia except Sabah Sarawak. Sarawak has its own land acquisition procedure under the Sarawak Land Code. Sabah has its own land acquisition procedure under a separate ordinance, which is Land Acquisition Ordinance. So Sabah Sarawak follow their own set of laws dan prosedur mereka sendiri. Okay. The background, prior to Land Acquisition Act, prior to the One Act, in all states they have their own ordinance and have their own enactments. For instance, Johor was the earliest state, not earliest, ada lagi Kelantan, lagi mana dah, mana lagi, tak ada, yang paling tua sekali ialah 1913, Kelantan Land Acquisition Enactment, replacement of the Land Continuation Enactment 1915. So all these states before the passing of Land Acquisition Act 1960, all the states in Malaysia have their own state legislation related to land acquisition. Masalah tu sama lah. This is the same problem. Also with environmental protection, for instance, in Malaysia, whereby when individual states have their own laws, the laws are non-uniform. Each state have their own provisions yang mungkin lain that may be different from other states, which will cause confusion. For instance, for developers from one state to operate in another state, kan? Because they have to know what is the exact law for that particular state. So to avoid all this confusion, to introduce certainty, to introduce uniformity, dia perkenalkan a single act, which is Land Acquisition Act 1960, which was based on the Land Acquisition Acts in India and England. Biasalah kita follow India, sebab India ni much more advanced in terms of law compared to us because they were colonized earlier compared to Malaya at that time. So that's why kita follow the copy paste. No, copy with some adjustments to the local situations or local conditions, and we adjust the act that we borrow from other countries. For instance, in this particular case, Land Acquisition Act. Contracts Act also we copy pasted from India, and we learned before 2006 the Heritage, National Heritage Act, we copied from where? Siapa ingat? Philippines kan? Philippines. But then we did some adjustments to the provisions to suit with our local culture, local conditions, local customs. Then with the Land Acquisition Act 1960, a unified Land Acquisition Act was implemented, was passed, was implemented, which was more conducive for the national development of Malaysia, because in all states we follow only one law regarding to land acquisition. Developers, the state governments, the federal government, need not look at different acts when they want to acquire land in other states. For instance, you go back to the ECRL just now, 5 different states. Can you imagine if different states have their own different land acquisition act, that will create confusion and it will take longer time to settle compared to having only one act. Satu akta. Now, same with other acts, the Land Acquisition Act was amended several times to take into consideration the change in development scenario in Malaysia. Sama lah. So this is the latest amendment. The latest to provide for strata scheme and underground land acquisition. Last year, Chong Merrill did thesis on this. They buat for who? Chong Merrill underground land acquisition, which was very nice. I think it was a very nice thesis. Bear in mind, we had COVID masa tu, full blast, the initial stage, everybody was scared to go and interview people. She didn't go as planned. She wanted to go and interview some people regarding her thesis for underground land acquisition. Dia nak buat MRT dekat mana lupa dah. But anyway, only with secondary data, she managed to get an A for her thesis, which was very good. Anyway, provide for strata scheme. So nowadays, the land acquisition, when we are talking about land acquisition, we are not just talking about the surface land acquisition, we are also talking about acquisition for strata scheme. What if sekiranya kita buat land acquisition, kenalah sedikit, the alignment of the road, for instance, touches a little bit of an apartment building. What happens then? We have to acquire part of the strata scheme. So what is the procedure? What's the SOP in that kind of situation? So now we have the provisions under Land Acquisition Act. Not only for strata schemes but also nowadays underground land acquisition. Ni penting sekarang. Because if you can, ni tak payah imagine lah. Because the newer lands, okay, newer lands in Malaysia, lands that titles, bukan new land, newer titles in Malaysia. Newer titles in Malaysia, they are being alienated with a specified depth. Ingat tak kita belajar 2001 kan you remember? Underground land before I think 2018 JK ada JKP7 2018 if I'm not mistaken. Before that, all the old titles when they issued with land titles, their rights go to the unspecified depth. Dia punya depth tu boleh jadi sampai dalam sampai dalam yang sampai ke kedalaman yang tidak ditentukan. So that means that if the government wants to do an underground punya scheme, for instance MRT underground ke LRT underground ke, they have to acquire the land kan. So for the newer titles since 2018, the surface land, the depth is specified. Hari itu untuk apa yang paling dalam is for industrial land. Industrial land 40 feet kan, for instance. For normal land 20 feet dan sebagainya. Agri land is 20 feet dan sebagainya. Okay. So for the newer titles, for the older titles whereby the title include the underground land, the government has to acquire the underground land if the government wants to undertake any underground land development for any purpose lah. And normally nowadays is for infrastructure, not just for MRT, LRT, but also tunneling, nak buat tunnel kan. Maybe in the future, who knows, in KL, they want to construct another smart tunnel, they have to do this underground land acquisition in KL. To streamline valuation for estate land acquisition. Now, estate land, estate land, remember the definition of estate land, what is the quantum, berapa minimum, berapa dia punya land area, do you recall? 100 acres kan? Betul? Ada ingat, ada tak ingat? 100 acres, tanah yang sangat besar. Very big land. Okay? So, estate land acquisition, if you unfortunately you are in your homes. But if you are here kan, I can show you that I have a set of land acquisition manuals, case manuals. Dalam buku I have a set of seven if I'm not mistaken. Seven, collections of case laws related to land acquisition. Most of the cases are related to estate land acquisition. Tu dia. Sebab selalunya ada reference to court regarding the compensation. Estate land selalu nak minta value yang tinggi. Padahal estate land is big, right? It's 100 acres and above, betul. So for big lands, how do we allow for the valuation? Can we take the the comparison, can we take from normal land? Normal means agri land yang biasa lah, which is less than 100 acres. Cannot kan? We have to compare like with like. So in this case, for estate land acquisition, the comps must come from estate land juga. But what if there's no estate land comparables or transactions nearby kan? So there must be a guideline for those kind of situations. So the amendment in 2017 took consideration the streamline valuation for estate land acquisition. Now memang dikata if estate land is being acquired, the comps must be estate land as well. Dia punya principles must follow the estate land valuation. Land acquisition procedure has been uniform for the whole Peninsula Malaysia with the existence of Land Acquisition Act 1960, which is a good thing to have one law throughout Peninsula Malaysia, because it creates certainty, it creates uniformity. Okay? Even though all states in Peninsula Malaysia are adopting Land Acquisition Act, however, the way of how it is implemented would be different according to each state. For instance, the borang-borang lah. Certain states ada dua salinan borang application, for instance, or certain states have ask for 5 or 6, depends. Procedure sama, but the small details is up to each state how they want to implement the procedure. Land Acquisition Act has 8 parts from preliminary acquisition, summary, inquiry. Inquiry is siasatan. Inquiry di sini refers to siasatan. Taking possession of land, reference to court, service of notice, temporary occupation or use of land, miscellaneous. Preliminary, dia punya tajuk besar, dia punya definitions. Acquisition tu sendiri, the application process, the service of notice, notice, service, marking out, summary inquiry. And summary inquiry inquiry proceedings, macam mana notice panggilan kepada interested parties, how the inquiry is conducted, who can be involved in the inquiry proceeding, taken possessions, reference dan sebagainya. Basic principles of justice, yang tadi tu basic principle yang the three eminent domain, the lex tadi tu dengan the other one, the populi tu principles of land acquisition in general. But this one is basic principles of justice. Land acquisition must be based on just compensation, betul? Tadi according to Dr. Anwar punya statement, must be given just compensation. So element of justice is very important in land acquisition. So apakah prinsipal yang perlu dipatuhi untuk memastikan justice, yang memastikan memastikan keadilan? What are the basic principles? The first one, right to be given notice. The second one, so we go one by one, some slides. So one is the right to be given notice. Mesti diberikan notice. The right to speak and make objection. Mesti diberikan peluang untuk bercakap, untuk menyuarakan dia punya bantahan dan sebagainya, dan make objection dan membuat bantahan. The third one, expeditious in land acquisition matters. Expeditious, segera, menyegerakan, bukan cepat, segera, menyegerakan. Jangan melengah-lengahkan land acquisition matters. For instance, the inquiry. For instance, the penentuan pampasan. Pembayaran pampasan dengan penentuan pampasan are two different things. You are required, you meaning the land administrator. Land administrator is required to menentukan jumlah pampasan dengan cepat, tapi bayaran tu boleh dibuat lambat-lambat. Adalah case, nanti kita tengok. There's a difference between the determination of land acquisition and the payment of land acquisition. Tapi kalau ikut principle of justice, must be expeditious, mesti segera. Land acquisition is not made with malafide or abuse of power or ultra virus. Pengambilan tanah tak boleh dibuat secara niat jahat, malafide. Tak boleh dibuat secara abuse of power, salah guna kuasa. Tak boleh dibuat secara ultra virus. Tak boleh dibuat secara melampaui batasan kuasa. Abuse of power dengan niat jahat. Ultra virus mungkin tak ada niat jahat tapi dah melangkaui dia punya batasan kuasa. So tak boleh, mesti within the power, must be made with bona fide, bukan mala. Mala means jahat. Ada orang nama mala, nasib baik tak ada. Nombor 5, land administrator must conduct a complete inquiry in the land acquisition proceeding. Dia punya siasatan mestilah lengkap. Dan keenam, equivalence in compensation. Kita tengok apa maksud equivalence in compensation. Ada nanti slide number 6 slides from now. Okay, right to be given notice. Proprietor whose land is intended for acquisition must be notified. Mesti diberitahu of the intention. Mesti diberitahu that the land is likely to be acquired. Bukan saja tanah yang dah diambil. No. Mesti diberitahu tanah yang mungkin diambil even from the beginning. Tanah you mungkin diambil, notice is given through section 4 notice. Okay. Tanah you telah diambil ataupun confirm akan diambil is given through section 8 notice. So in that with that being said, seseorang land proprietor, an individual proprietor must be given section 4 notice. Mesti diberikan satu notice yang tanah you mungkin diambil, selain daripada akan diambil. The notice must state the details of the acquired land, including notice itu mesti mengandungi apa. Adakah just cakap saya nak ambil tanah you? Bukan. Mesti ada the details of the acquired land. Yang betul lah, data yang betul lah. Lot yang betul. For instance, nama proprietor yang betul. Acquired land area, registered proprietor's name, purpose of acquisition and other details. So these are the two cases whereby notice, so right to be given notice were raised in these two cases, tapi tak berjaya lah, Yulian and Syed Umar, but they tried to use this section 4 punya kehendak tu sebagai untuk mengalahkan, to defeat the land acquisition, but unfortunately tidak berjaya, not able to do that. Now, right to speak and make objection. The proprietor or interested parties on the land must be allowed to state the issues and facts pertaining to the land. For instance, apa isu, apa fakta yang hendak dibangkitkan? Compensation, the amount of compensation, jumlah tak cukup atau jumlah tu sangat sedikit, kami minta lebih tinggi, because we feel that we should have gotten these items. Method of payment, for instance, kami nak sekaligus, kami nak 2 kali bayaran or whatever, ataupun kami nak instead of all money, we want half money and then half of it we want a replacement land, for instance. Apportionment of compensation lagi, saya orang ni saya nak half sebab saya berhak, this is my hak, dan so on so forth. Inquiry, pertaining to inquiry, matters that should be assessed and considered during inquiry before award is given and a chance to make objection during the inquiry. The proses siasatan tu sendiri boleh bersuara, dia boleh bersuara. Dia ada satu case tu yang mana the proprietor was called to the inquiry but she was not allowed to go into the proceeding, tak dibenarkan masuk semasa disiasat, buat siasatan. Dalam kes tu kemudiannya in reference to court, the owner, the proprietor managed to mengatakan bahawa tak ikut prosedur, so kes tu dibatalkan, pengambilan tu dibatalkan sebab dia tak dipanggil dalam bilik semasa siasatan. Objection to the award, including objection in court, mesti diberikan hak tersebut. Others, right of representation by a lawyer during inquiry and calling witnesses. Sekiranya, if the proprietor is somebody who is not confident in his own or her own ability to represent himself, self-representation, dia tak confident, they can ask a lawyer to come during inquiry to represent him or her, and can call witnesses untuk support dia punya statements. Within Land Acquisition Act, these rights are given by sections 10 to 13 and section 36 to 38. We will learn these sections in detail later on. Expeditious, segera in land acquisition matters. During the acquisition process, it's not possible to conduct any dealings. Tak boleh buat sebarang urus niaga dalam semasa proses acquisition. Tidak boleh buat, tidak boleh jual, tak boleh pajak, tak boleh dealings, tak boleh lagi buat all this kind of things, tak boleh pajak, tak boleh gadai, tak boleh itulah pajak, tak boleh buat gadaian, tak boleh jual, all this kind of things cannot be done. Therefore, proprietor loses his rights to charge, lease and sell. If the acquisition process is long, this means that the proprietor has been deprived of his rights on this land. Maknanya telah menafikan ataupun mengambil hak-hak tersebut lah daripadanya. Therefore, oleh itu, in the interest of justice, the land acquisition process should be completed as expeditiously as possible, sesegera yang mungkin. Bukan cepat ya, segera. Pemungut hasil tanah daerah Barat Daya punya kes lawan Ong Gek Ki 1983. Okay, while the inquiry award was on 15 of June the Section 8 Declaration, borang 8 kita panggil Section 8 Declaration, tanah akan diambil, was given out on tarikh notis borang 8 25 April 1974. Siasatan award, the inquiry and award 15 June 1981. How many years after that? 7 years after that, kan? So was that reasonable? That was the court decided that it constituted abuse of power. Tidak reasonable. And granted certiorari order favouring the proprietor. Certiorari order ialah satu order yang boleh memansuhkan the process of acquisition. It is something that is feared by the acquiring agency. Sebab sekiranya dapat certiorari order, maknanya semua kerja yang atas tanah tu selama ni jadi illegal lah. Sebab dia dah encroach kan, dia dah masuk tanah tu secara haram. So in this particular case, penting tarikh notis tu semua diikuti dengan the next procedure sesegera yang boleh. So in this particular case, there was a lag ataupun a lapse of 7 years daripada tarikh notis borang 8 declaration yang tanah itu diambil dengan siasatan dan award. Sangat, this is so unreasonable. So the whole process was considered null and void. Number 4, land acquisition not made with malafide or abuse of power or ultra-virus. Malafide or abuse of power, sekiranya kita nak claim ada berlakunya niat jahat, the onus, the burden to prove the niat jahat is on the owner, is on the proprietor, is on the interested party to prove it. The High Court has the power to set aside land acquisition proceeding through an order of certiorari if it can be shown that the land administrator or state authority has acted beyond its legal authority. Ini in the case of ultra-virus. Sudah melakukan sesuatu tanpa dibenarkan secara legal. Dalam akta tak beri hak tersebut, tiba-tiba dia buat melampaui atau melangkaui hak yang diberikan. Now, in the case of Yap Siok Pen lawan Kerajaan Negeri Kelantan 1986, the appellant bought a land with shop house which he had previously been a tenant for 45 years. Dia dah jadi tenant atas shop house tu selama 45 tahun. Dia beli tanah tersebut. The respondent acquired the land for the purpose of redevelopment for Yayasan Kelantan. Tiba-tiba Kerajaan Negeri Kelantan mengambil tanah tersebut untuk tujuan redevelopment, pembangunan semula on behalf of Yayasan Kelantan. Appellant, Mr. Yap di sini argued that his land was acquired because he was Chinese. Dia mengatakan bahawa tanahnya diambil sebab dia Cina. Betul ke tak betul? Okay, betul ke tak betul? In this particular case, it went all the way to Privy Council. What is Privy Council? Tengok tahun dia, 1986. Pada tahun tersebut, 1986, the highest appeal authority in Malaysia was Privy Council. Dia boleh bawa lepas pada Supreme Court, pada masa tu bukan Federal Court. Supreme Court dia boleh bawa outside Malaysia, which is pada UK, dia bawa pada Privy Council. Okay? Kes tersebut dia kata telah berlaku di situ satu what's the word satu discrimination lah kot, sebab saya Cina, kerajaan tanah saya diambil. Tapi Lord Griffith kata kalau you boleh prove, then you boleh mengalahkan acquisition. Tetapi in this particular case, you tak boleh prove ada niat jahat di situ, ataupun ada discrimination, ataupun ada that kind of thing yang you allege ada. So bila tidak boleh dibuktikan, maka tidak boleh diberikan order of certiorari. Maknanya rayuan ditolak. Maknanya the acquisition went through. Syed Omar Abdul Rahman Taha Asagong, I do not want to state here because it's so sensitive. Siapa nak tahu? PM ni. Cerita ni sensitif nanti. Okay, anyway, number 5. Land administrator must conduct a complete inquiry in the land acquisition proceeding. Mesti lengkap. The person whose land is acquired, sebab land acquisition ini mengambil hak yang di protect under Article 13 by National Land Code. Mestilah proses tersebut dijalankan A sampai Z, mesti lengkap. Okay? The person whose land is acquired by the state authority should receive adequate compensation. Mesti mendapat pampasan mencukupi. Sama ada melalui Land Administrators Award ataupun court decision. To arrive at an adequate compensation, land administrator must be satisfied. Dia sendiri mestilah berpuas hati dengan awardnya. To be satisfied, the law requires land administrator to conduct a complete inquiry. If the land administrator expressly ignores issues that are material and related to the assessment and amount of compensation, then the land administrator is considered in breach of his duty and may cause its award to be incorrect or worse, void. Contohnya, tanah tu dah ada planning permission, for instance. Bila dah ada planning permission, nilai tanah tinggi lah sebab dah ada cadangan pembangunan atas tanah tu. So, sekiranya land administrator tak take into consideration the planning permission, the compensation the compensation award is lower than what it should have been, dan tidak berlaku satu justice di situ kan, satu keadilan di situ. Jadi bolehlah dibantah jumlah dia punya compensation yang diputuskan. Equivalence, equivalence in compensation. The intention of land acquisition legislation is to pay the affected party a sum to compensate for his losses. The sum payable is a sum for land taken and other losses suffered in consequence of the acquisition. Okay, equivalence in compensation maksudnya to place the person affected by the acquisition in the same position after the acquisition as he was before. No worse, no better. Maknanya compensation tu bukan nak menguntungkan atau nak merugikan the proprietor ataupun the interested party. Dia tidak akan jadi terlalu overcompensated, dia tak akan jadi terlalu undercompensated. Compensation dia mesti meletakkan dia dalam keadaan yang sama. Sebelum dia dapat, sebelum land acquisition tu berlaku, beginilah dia punya wealth. Selepas dia punya acquisition, beginilah dia punya wealth. Same. But having said that, in practice, di dalam di luar sana, selalunya land administrator, dia punya award tu, dia punya compensation, dia macam kalau dia tersilap lagi, tersilap lebih. Bukan tersilap mengurangkan, tersilap kurang dia punya jumlah tu. The land administrator always tu tersilap err on the high side, not err on the low side. Sebab dia tahu, dia faham, okay. You bagi compensation kepada nilai tanah, you bagi compensation pada kos pemindahan, you bagi compensation kepada all these things yang tak belajar lagi under first schedule, you bagi all these things. Tapi at the same time, mesti juga consider bahawa tuan tanah tu dah mungkin tinggal di tanah tu berapa lama. In the case of Mr. Yap, just 45 years kan. So mestilah beri satu jumlah yang boleh appease, yang boleh memujuk, yang boleh meredakan orang tu punya perasaan just now. Yang kena pindah, yang kena keluar, yang kena cari rumah baru, dia cari tempat bisnes baru. So dia akan beri more than normally, more than what is required to be given. More tu meaning apa yang reasonable lah. Dah tak boleh lah melampau, tak boleh lah bagi too much until 100,000 or 500,000 more than what is supposed to be given to that person. Must be reasonable. Contohnya sini, ada land administrator yang beri, kos perpindahan kan, instead of RM1,000, sebab RM1,000 is the cost of hiring a lorry kan, satu trip. Dia kata, you ada barang banyak mana cik? Saya ada satu fridge, satu set sofa, saya ada satu barang besar-besar, ada fridge, ada set sofa, ada TV 52 inches, ada lagi wardrobe, ada 4 item besar. Cik, you hire 4 lorry. So 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 instead of 1,000. Itu cara je lah. Untuk tolong, untuk appease kita kata. Because for the reasons that I mentioned before. Because land acquisition means that the original proprietor has to move away, has to move out, has to find another place. Not just a place to stay, but sometimes a place of business kan. Mungkin the new place of business, you take another few years for you to settle down, for you to get new customers kan. Okay, wow, on time even though we started late, but we managed to finish on time, which is good. Now, for the tutorial, let me just show you. Let's see if I can go dalam Spectrum just now. Spectrum again. Spectrum V3. Again. Master atau kesendirian dia kata, tak boleh masuk lagi. Alamak. Anyway, if you go to Spectrum, you will find this. The title of the file is all tutorial questions, if I'm not mistaken. Ni all tutorials, betul. All tutorials. Now, in the file, in the Word file, all tutorials, I have put the questions according to the weeks. Week 1, ada 2 questions. So do this for our tutorial. Do the 2 questions for our tutorial 1. Week 2 ada soalan. Week 2 banyak. Week 2 banyak soalan sebab a lot of things happen under this one, application until marking out. Try lah to do. Try to do. I put also the exam question. Exam question you may opt not to do during the tutorial. Later on lah. Exam question maybe during your study week boleh buat. Siapa yang rajin boleh buat. Those who are hardworking can do it now, but those to all everyone, I would say do this during your study week because you have learned everything at that time. You want to test again. So just do for each week the questions under the week. Week 2, you have 8 questions ke. 8 questions, cubalah. Then week 3, you have short questions only. 3, 5, 6, 6 questions. And then I put the exam question last year. Okay. Then week 4, the questions. Week 5, the questions. Week, week 5 je. Because week 6 is under, it's last week with me kan. Anyway, the one is not there. Anyway, do this, okay, for the tutorial this week. And besides that, I have recommended you to read Dr. Anwar's paper. Okay, Dr. Anwar's paper, what is the title? NST Anwar, NST Dr. Anwar. Baca buku tu. Baca this one. Tutorials, install now. I'm not here. I'm not sure lah. Offline, tak boleh. Anyway, you see what I mean, because I have provided the links. I have provided the links on the in the yeah. Kat load offline. Sorry. Okay. I provided the links in the week 1. You see week 1, what is the lecture link, and then tutorial. What are the things that you should do? You must do for your tutorial. Any questions now? Any questions? I think it's too early then. But if you have any questions, I tengok chat sekejap. Doing fine, clear. Any questions, you can PM me lah after this, in the group or personally. Now, at the end of this week, I'm going to give out to all batches a survey lah, biasalah Google Form survey, just to ask you about your connectivity, about the issues with spectrum, the issues with how the lectures are being conducted. So for those for the questions, okay, answer truthfully, answer sincerely, so I can collect the information for your batch, and then I will forward the information to both Dr. Yasmin and Dr. Anwar. Okay. So with that being said, thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. I will see you on Wednesday. Bye. Tengok bilik sepah tak? Can you see my sofa, kipas, tak pernah guna. Okay. You have any class after this?
Yes, doctor.
Tak ada orang jawab. Okay lah, bye-bye. Okay, bye Neo. Bye, you have class. Okay, love. Bye, love. I miss you. Bye, Liana. Bye, Mel. Bye, everyone. Bye. Distance validation. All the best. Bye. Go to the next class. Okay, bye-bye. I leave the group.